Thank you, Scott. And you can hear me in the back, right? So I just walked in about 5 minutes ago and had the opportunity to listen to a bit of the rehearsal. And I just have to say that all of you are just amazing. And so is your conductor. So thank you for doing this, and I wish you all the luck and all success in what you're doing. So let me tell you a little bit of what I think could possibly be a solution to all that's happening in the world. And let me tell you why I think it could be the solution, if there is a solution. I mean, all of you are, I'm sure, aware of what's happening in the news in Syria right now, in Egypt, in Iraq, in our own country here, in the urban areas. There's conflict everywhere in the world, and there has been conflict everywhere in the world for thousands of years. So don't let anyone give you the romantic notion that there was a time that there was peace on our planet. There never was, because we are very early in our stage of emotional and spiritual development as a species, and we haven't really learned how to solve our problems or resolve conflicts peacefully or creatively. The problem now, though, is that we have modern capacities. We have atomic bombs, we have mechanized death, we have drones, we have biological warfare, we have information hacking. I mean, somebody who's really smart could use something like this, cause a nuclear plant to leak, or interfere with electricity in a city like this, or poison the food chain. And they don't have to actually have an education. They can find how to do it by going to the internet. So the fact that we still have those primitive tendencies and we have these modern capacities, it really is now the point where we are risking our extinction as a human species. The last mass extinction on our planet was 65 million years ago, when the dinosaurs disappeared and there was a meteorite that fell on Earth. But if there's going to be another mass extinction, it's going to be because of the human species. So, is peace possible? And the more you think about it, the more you realize that all conflicts in the world are because of very limited identity. Either it's your racial identity, your ethnic identity, your religious identity, or your national identity. So it's limited identity, and it's also systems of thought. So religion is a system of thought. Okay, so is, in fact, science a system of thought. It's a particular system of thought, but it's a system of thought. Politics is a system of thought. Communism, socialism, capitalism, religion, Islam, Christianity, Hindus, Buddhists. Okay, they're all different systems of thought. And so is philosophy a system of thought. And systems of thought create ideologies. Ideologies means maps pertaining to certain ideas. And all the conflicts in the world are a result of limited identity, which is also a system of thought, religion, system of thought, scientific technologies that are creating mechanized death, systems of thought. So as long as we live in a system of thought, whatever the system of thought, it seems there's no solution, because all the conflicts are ideological conflicts. Is there a solution? And why does music play a role, if it does play a role? And Scott mentioned it's an international language, but even though composers use their minds when they compose these symphonies and these beautiful types of music, they came from a deeper level, not the intellect, not even the ego. When a composer is composing something original, it's a creative process. And the creative process comes from a much deeper level, which many spiritual traditions call the soul. The soul is a dynamic part of your consciousness, deeper being, which really is the place where meaning, context, relationships, insight, intuition, imagination, creativity, they all come together. And when you're performing music or you're composing music, you're actually harnessing this part of your being. It's really not a system of thought. Music is a language of the soul, as is poetry, as are many of the arts, dancing. These are languages of the soul, of a core consciousness that's very deep. And so it doesn't matter, all of you are from different countries, you probably speak different languages in addition to English, or maybe you don't speak English, but you know, you look very different. You have different ethnic, racial identities, but here you are, you know, in this orchestra with the conductor, and you're playing in harmony with each other. There's some magic that happens when all of you go deep into your soul. So I think celebrative music, because music also, by the way, because it's part of your soul, it can also address the dark side of your soul. People have used music, martial music, to go to war. People have used music to incite people to violence too. So, because our soul does have that part too. But celebrative music, joyous music, music that somehow evokes love and compassion and kindness and joy and empathy and equanimity, but in a very dynamic way, that I think could heal. Because what we have right now in our world is a rift in our collective mind, the conditioned mind. The conditioned mind is the reason for everything, every conflict that we have. Going to the level of our soul can by and by take us beyond the conditioned mind. So if I had to live out a fantasy, the fantasy would be that after next Tuesday, is it? Yeah. After next Tuesday, that you become a roving musical orchestra that goes everywhere, that goes to Jerusalem, that goes to Gaza, that goes to the Congo, that goes to Syria. And you're not making any statements, you're not participating in any kind of activism. Activists can be very angry people, even peace activists. And so I don't think peace can be created by angry peace activists. Peace can only be created by celebration and joy and sparking the fire in our souls. So my fantasy would be that this becomes a permanent feature, and that actually many, many other groups all across the world start emulating what you're doing, and there is a peace concert, World Peace Orchestra celebration every day in every big city in the world, till everybody, the warmongers and the peace activists and the politicians, we just have to let them exhaust themselves, you know, because they're coming from a different place. They're coming not from the place of art that you're coming from. T.S. Eliot once said of poetry, it's a raid on the inarticulate. And I think the inarticulate is that part of your soul, which doesn't need to speak, it just needs to play. And music is even a deeper raid into the inarticulate. I think I'm leaving next week, but if I can delay my trip to Mexico, I'd love to come and celebrate your concert with you on Tuesday. So take care, Godspeed, and all the best. Thank you. So Scott wants to know if there are any questions. Yes, sir. So I don't know if everyone heard his question, but he asked me, I'm a doctor, so how did I get interested in peace, and why particularly music, and why not sports, for example. So yes, I'm a doctor. I trained in medicine. I'm an endocrinologist. I trained in neuroendocrinology, which is the study of brain chemicals. And very early on, I realized in my practice that I could have two patients who had the same illness. They saw the same physician, they had the same disease, and they could have completely different outcomes. One could recover, and one could die. So I knew that the mechanistic, machine-like approach we had to healing was not correct, okay? And I was studying brain chemicals, and I was discovering that when we experience certain kinds of emotion, then the brain chemistry changes. Today, everybody knows that. You know, there are certain chemicals in the brain that everybody recognizes. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, opiates, these are endorphins. By the way, they go up when you're playing music. So if you're enjoying this music, your opiates go up, your serotonin levels go up, and your oxytocin levels go up. And these chemicals are also immunomodulators. They modulate the activity of the immune system. So I had already recognized that a state of consciousness, which was joyous, celebrative, connecting, had an effect on the body. I also had some very interesting experiences. I was working in the VA hospital where there were soldiers who were came there with stroke or brain damage. And you know, now we have lots of rehab, occupational therapy, etc. But one of the things I discovered was if these soldiers were in a comatose state and I played music to them, the music that was popular when they were growing up. So these were soldiers now in their 50s, 60s, but if I played music to them and they were comatose, it would somehow nourish the brain and revive their memories, and they would wake up. I had a young girl who was in a comatose state after an automobile accident, brain trauma, and her parents told me that she was 12 years old, that she was very fond of Michael Jackson's music. And I was a friend of Michael, so I asked Michael to come and sing to her in her hospital room. And slowly she came out of her coma. So I really, very early on, realized the powerful healing effects of music on the brain. And now we know, you know, there's all kinds of journals about music therapy and how it improves the well-being of a person. And there's a biochemical basis for it. But then, you know, I also realized that you can't have healing unless you are at peace, unless your community is peaceful, unless you have peaceful relationships, unless you know, you're in an environment that cultivates that and nurtures that. And music does that. Does sport do it? To a great extent, but not the same extent as music.
Can I have a question?
Yes. It's very good. I hope you heard the question. It's a very important question. So we go to Jerusalem, we go to Damascus, we do a concert, we make people happy for a couple of hours, then we leave. How are they really going to be helped? So I think we have to start creating peace technologies that we teach as we do this. I wrote a book many years ago, and I'll see if I still can get 200 copies. It's called Peace is the Way. And it's the basis of the book is that there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. And there are peace can only be created by those who are peaceful. As Mahatma Gandhi said, you know, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. So in the book, I outlined very many principles. Being at peace, feeling peace, which is compassion too, thinking peace, creating peace, projecting peace, celebrate, no, through many techniques, but music, of course, very important. Celebrating peace, and then solving conflicts through well-understood technologies. You know, when you do conflict resolution, You take the two sides and you have certain principles that you impart to both sides. And the principles are, let's speak with respect, because the number one cause of conflict in the world is lack of perceived respect. Let's recognize that in any conflict, both sides feel injustice. Okay, otherwise there wouldn't be a conflict. Let's recognize that there is fear on both sides. Let's make sure that you don't prove the other person wrong, because once you prove them wrong, they'll never forgive you. Okay? Let's refrain from belligerence, use emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is, I'm in touch with my feelings, I'm in touch with your feelings, I speak to you non-violently with respect, and we both find out what's the creative solution. You know, the creative solutions, by the way, usually are economic solutions. So we say, okay, let's say we have conflict for the next 5 years. What's the economic situation going to be? Are your children going to be feeling safe? Are they going to go to school? What do you want in your family, in your community? Ask both sides, they want the same thing. So you use emotional intelligence. You exchange your values with other people. You are ready to forgive. You do not bring in religion or ideology, because you don't bring in religion, ideology, or politics, because people always argue about that, no matter what. Okay?
These are the arguments, actually.
Huh?
These are the arguments, not the way to argue.
Yeah. So you bring in these principles and say, what do you want? Okay? So what do you want? What will make you happy in the end? Will revenge make you happy? Will killing people make you happy? Or will sending your kids to school, getting a good livelihood, and expressing your creativity, finding meaning and purpose in your life make you happy? So let's find out. So on small levels, we've tried this, okay? I have tried with other people in Gaza. We have tried in schools in the United States, where there's a lot of violence. Now we need to take it in a very big level. And I think if we actually did something where we took the well-understood technologies of peacemaking and conflict resolution, and then combined it with music. And I'm not saying you just go there and leave. I mean, you should have local orchestras. Music should be every day. If somebody doesn't respond to music, don't trust them. You know, it was Shakespeare, I think, who said, "The man that hath no music in himself is fit for treasons, stratagems, and spoils. Let no such man be trusted." The music is part of it. Okay? Thank you. Maybe I'll be privileged to be part of this movement if it happens.
I think everyone would be thrilled for that to happen. So, thank you. Thank you.
He has one more question. What's your question? Quickly. Right now, right now there's a big movement across the world in what is called hip-hop music and hip-hop poetry. Hip-hop is street art, really, and speaks with a rebel's voice. It started here in the United States, but now hip-hop artists and kids are there all over the world, actually, even in places like Iran and Iraq and Colombia. You're seeing, huh?
It's all about violence.
So far it is, right? Because why is it about violence? Because these kids come from violent areas, you know? They're programmed into it. But that's street music, and I think the more we harness that, you know, if you go to places where there are despots or tyrants, guess who they're afraid of? They're not afraid of the scientists. They're not even afraid of the educators. Who are they afraid of? They're afraid of the artists. Okay, that's why they ban music and they ban poetry and they ban, you know, the ability to look at other people's art across the world. Artists change the world. Artists cause revolutions, not scientists, not politicians, and not other kinds of rebels. Okay, thank you.